Like everybody, I have watched a lot of YouTube videos in which there are reactions being shown. So I was fascinated by this and I wanted to do a reaction video also. So today we will be doing a reaction video of my own dancing, which has been dealt by a choreographer, dance composer. It has been that has a poetry of a Bhakti saint poet. The idea is to create more art appreciation and how an Indian classical dance can be enjoyed. What is that one thing that will make you falling? Yet the fall will only make you to rise. You want to know what I'm talking about? That one thing is nothing but love. We fall in love, yet the love only makes us to rise and grow bigger and better. Today I want to talk about a particular composition of a poet, a 12th century poet from Orissa. His name was Jayadeva, who has actually penned a series of poems called Ashtapadi. It's very famous and very popular among the dancers. The 12th century is all about the Bhakti movement, and it's the beginning where the Bhakti movement is just reaching its pinnacle also, and it's caught up like a wildfire and spread all over the subcontinent. In this period, Jayadeva's obsession for something that is divine was the idea of Leela, or the divine play. He combined it with his love for Lord Krishna. In the process, he has just made Vrindavan, the mystical forest, eternal in the socio-cultural memory of the Indian people and their love for Bhakti poetries. In this segment, I just want to talk about one of his Ashtapadi, which is Lalita Lavanga. And the beauty of this particular poem is how he has created the entire Vrindavan with words and by using alliterations. The first line of the poetry goes, Lalita Lavanga Lata Parishile Komala Malayada Shire. You see how la is repetitive over here. More than 4 to 5 times he has used it. The alliteration used is not just simple wordplay, but it was linguistically deliberately used in order to create that particular atmosphere of the Vrindavan forest's air, to bring out that gentle breeze of how the sense of the forest would be once you go into the thicket of it. While the first line is bringing out and setting the scent and the air of that particular place, the kshetra, the second line is he is creating a visual of the flora and fauna of that particular place. He is bringing in the sounds of the bird, the buzzing of the bees, and the intertwined nature of the leaves, and then how these leaves are moving with that gentle breeze. Only after setting that entire stage of that particular kshetra, the visual aspect of it and the scent and the fragrance aspect of it, then only he brings in the protagonist of that particular space, which is none other than Krishna, Radha and the gopis. Their equation and their relationship, what they have accomplished and done, how they have moved away from their dwelling places to come here to be lost in that mysticism. He is using a very superior sentiment over here. He is using Bhakti, which is none other than Madhura Shringaram. So the love over here, the Shringaram or the love that is being spoken about is not some superficial earthly kind of human kind of relationship based love. This is what he is talking about, the love of something that is extraordinary, something beyond what is humanly and what is earthly. So it's about dwelling in that state for prolonged period of time. So there's an ontological angle in which there is grounding that has happened by the poet, and it's his moments of getaway from his mundane life to be in this particular space, that mystical space that he has created, and within that space what he is feeling for Krishna and how he is enjoying it from the points of view of gopis and from the point of view of being Radha over there, that he pens this particular Ashtapadi. With this intent laid, with understanding the first person who is the reason, who sows, in classical dance, we have to understand that it is kind of layered. And the poetry or the sahitya, as what we call it, is the seed for the first moment where you begin that idea, and from where creativity is. The sahitya is the first seed that the poet sows, and in engaging with that seed, by nurturing that seed, something else comes out. And what comes out is what you see on stages when dancers dance for it. And that is how you understand, that is the first step to understand about appreciation for Indian classical dance. Words are so powerful. When Jayadeva has created such a beautiful poetry like this, musicians and dancers get really very excited. So they revisit such kind of poetries so that they can take it to the next level. So in the next level, what happens? Somebody should be equally as obsessed and mad like Jayadeva in order to fulfill or appropriate the words that he has penned. I'm going to break down as to how the music composition and the dance composition, what are the areas in this that is so beautiful that can be appreciated. This particular composition that you will be repeatedly seeing, the dance composition for this is none other than Kalaimamani Gopika Varma, and the music composition for this is Sudev Warrier. The relationship that a music composer shares with the dancer is a very, very intimate relationship, because they both are coming together and they are both going to treat the word. They must be in so much sync such that one composition and the other composition sits on top of each other. So first, to deal with the music, in this particular piece, Sudev Warrier has chosen the Ragam Hindolam, and what I really liked about the way in which he has treated it is that immediately it gives a certain kind of grounding for the dancer to get into that sacred space of creating that mysticism, and everything is kind of dawns into her mental scape, and she's immediately able to slip into that role play of being a Radha or Krishna or Gopi. And for that matter, even as the creeper or the bird or the river. So bringing all these things together has been the mastery of visual narration by Srimati Gopika Varma. How she is dwelt with so delicately. Like, for example, the entry begins with a syllable of a musical composition where the dancer is moving in movements and coming through. But immediately, as soon as she comes inside, the dancer is kind of setting the stage for the poetry to come, because Jayadeva is already talking about the air and the scent. So a prelude is given in the choreography to expand and extend as to what the audience has to see. So here is where there's a lot of depiction about the flowers, and then there is the bird, the peacock dancing, and then there is the deer moving about here and there that is being noticed. And once this particular thing is set, then the music rolls, the sahityam flows, and in that sahityam, the description is there of the lata moving in the wind, and the bees, the buzzing of the bees, the sounds of the bees, and then the chirping of the birds, and then the creepers intertwined with the barks of the trees. So that's how that entire forest is actually coming together. And then it says, in this forest there was Krishna, and with him there was Gopi. It was the time of Vasanta, and during this time of Vasanta there was the play, the divine play, the Leela, the Rasa Krida. To be able to appreciate the choreographer's mind, how the creation has been done, I want to give two parameters of aesthetics that has been used. In the first Charanam, the choreographer has used a lot of contrast. What do I mean by contrast? Isn't contrast to do with something to do with photography? No, not necessarily. A contrast in dance can be done with respect to sentiments. Just with one sentiment. For example, over here, where the dancer is showing the kasturi or the scent of the deer, and she says that the scent of deer is creating, it's so beautiful, it is so intoxicating. But at some point of time, the protagonist is realizing that this scent is creating so much of burning sensation. What used to be, what is meant to be so cooling and intoxicating, is creating agony and agitation inside of me. So this is a contrast that is coming out in the first Charanam. Similar kind of contrast again in the first Charanam is when the protagonist is seeing a leaf, an Ashoka leaf that is hanging over there, which is reminding her of the pangs of how Madmada carries 5 particular types of flowers. One of the things that he carries is the Ashoka's flower. So that particular flowers is supposed to create some sort of an excitement. But then the protagonist is saying that what was creating the same arrows of Manmada, which was creating excitement at that time, is now creating me so much of pain. Again, you see how the contrast is used. What was pleasure has become painful right now. So this is a wonderful way to understand and appreciate how a mundane way of directly saying something can be elevated to a different level just by using the contrast over there. So it doesn't end there. Contrast is just one of the aesthetic laws which can be used to show that something like a tool that is being used over there for depicting creating art. The most versatile tool that can be used, most ultimate tool that can be used by a choreographer is, however, using a metaphor. So in the second Charanam, visual is very beautifully portrayed. So the dancer will show how a tree is existing, and on the tree there is a vine that is intertwining, and then in this intertwining, the leaf of the vine and that of the tree are seamlessly in union with each other. So this is what the poetry is trying to say. But the choreographer shows all these things, and then from there she just takes how the relationship between a creeper and vine is how the relationship is between Krishna and Radha. In that moment where that comparison is happening, that is a very beautiful way, the most beautiful way in which art can be depicted. And that is something that I really very much enjoy each time I am performing for this particular composition. You see how many layers a dancer has to go through now. First, there is the intent of the bhakti poet, who is like a saint, who has lived his life like a saint, who has constantly created an ambience and made a forest that has completely become eternal in the minds of everyone. So in the final segment is about how that particular dance is getting finally translated into the audience. This is where the performing artist or the dancer plays a very, very big role. Although the choreographer is one person, the choreography can be taught to many people, but only one dancer who will be able to take it in a certain way, because that choreography is internalized and absorbed by the dancer, that she is able to fully appropriate the intent of the poet as well as the brilliance of the choreographer. So that's the first step that you have to look for in whether a particular dancer is how to tell or differentiate between somebody who is absolutely stunning from somebody who is able to appropriate a dance. So bhakti becomes a very, very subjective experience over here right now. So we have to reinvent the sentiment of bhakti in the present time. So what is that one thing that you can fall in love with? And that's where, the Indic ideas become so powerful, where they say that they very clearly define that it should be something that is very permanent and something that is very, very constant. So here the idea of divine play as in the existence and the beauty of that particular kshetra, the creation of that particular environment or the ecosystem of the forest from the mind's eye of the poet. All these things a dancer will put and puzzle it all together so that she can take inspirations from that and she can breathe life into the choreography. For me, what I really love about this particular choreography is how that play has many kind of layers. One is the layer of what the idea of the Krishna itself represents, Sri Krishna, the emotion that you would attach to that particular god or entity or divine. So that is one aspect of it. And then how so many people, that one becomes multiplies into that Leela, Rasa Krida or the Leela, how one multiplies into many gopis. So there is a way in which the dancer becomes not just Krishna, then she becomes the tree, she becomes the leaf, then she becomes, there is a process in which she has to change herself in split moments of time as the bird, peacock sometimes, a cuckoo sometimes, and then there are humming of the bees. So the challenge is how you switch into becoming something. So this is where the beauty of how the internalization process is involved, and then there is how deep you are able to go and how deeply you are able to seamlessly you are able to transition from being one into another. So one becomes many, and then that many again comes back to that same one person, the dancer becoming all the characters that is involved, and then the dancer again, all the characters again coming back and tracing its way back to the dancer. So that seamless transition in which a dancer is able to carry it out, that is what you as audience will have to look for when you want to appreciate and or rather differentiate between the same composition being danced by many people. Also, to appreciate, what you can do is you can see whether the entire scene of the Vrindavan is how much they are able to bring it out just by hand gestures. and make it believable just by the look and sight of it. So these are how you can increase the way in which you can read into a particular dance to appreciate it better. I love this particular dance composition because it allows me to just transport myself to another era or another time, to another space, and it allows me to just let go of myself, the various caps and identities that I have to stay with in the real world. I get to shred all those layers and just be that formless thing, entity that I get to be when I am dancing. So this particular composition as well as the choreography allows me to just be myself, to understanding what reality is best. So I really love visiting this dance very much. Similarly, many people have also enjoyed me performing this particular dance very much. There is something about it that they come and say, I really like this particular thing that you did. They won't be able to tell what. Now here is the last bit that you have to understand when it comes to appreciation. Sometimes some things need not be intellectualized so much. It is very important to just feel, especially when it comes to art. In order to learn how best to appreciate it, you have to learn how much it is touching you. You have to be open-minded such that it allows that person to touch you deeply inside, and in that moment you will have just one split second, you will also get transported to a different time or a different space. Just wait for that particular moment to just happen, because there is so much of noise and chaos all around us. I think art is one place, and among art, dance is one thing which you just easily sweep you off your feet and take you to some other place. Just allow yourself to just be lost in that movement, in that expression, and in that emotion of what the dancer is sometimes trying to say.